Hey guys, welcome to Bledsoe Said So. We have a very special episode today. Yesterday, the episode of Beyond Skinwalker, History Channel's hot news show, has just aired about our family, and we have the amazing hosts Paul and Andy with us from Beyond Skinwalker. I'm so excited to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's just get right into it.
It's great to see you, Ryan.
Yes, likewise. Feels like yesterday. I've been waiting 8 months for this, and now it's
I know, right? It's been a long time since we spent our cold nights there in North Carolina, right, Paul?
I was going to say it's nothing like it is now, which is the blazing hot middle of summer. The last time Andy and I saw Ryan and his family, it was a bitter cold North Carolina winter. But an amazing experience, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, it was cold. It was January, and I got to say, it was like 6 days out in the woods, sky watching, all this equipment. I mean, for me, it was amazing. It was just another day in the life. For you guys, I know it was a lot of excitement. What was that like? What was that like showing up to our property? Like, I guess more so in the sense of like, how was the conversation leading up to arriving at our property?
No, that's actually a really good question. So I know Paul and I spent a good deal of our time investigating out west. And we found ourselves, going through the Rocky Mountains, going through the UFO highway, Arizona, Nevada, Utah. And then we had this idea to take the investigation east. And North Carolina was on our list, and we had researched and discovered, quite a bit about your dad. And we were like, hey, what do we think about taking this investigation to the source? We had been investigating locations for so long. The idea of investigating an individual with the phenomenon surrounding them was a very different, it was a departure from what we had done in the past, Paul.
It's a departure for our series and for the whole Skinwalker sort of investigation overall, right? Because that is very much centered on a place and the things that happen there. And as you point out, Andy, this is the first time that either show has gone afield in this way, looking at what an individual experiences as the starting point, wherever that may be. So yeah, this was totally different for us.
Yeah. So the conversation was really kind of, at first there was a question of, should we make the trip? How difficult will it be to make the trip? We're talking about, you saw it, Ryan. We had multiple cameras. It's a whole documentary team. So to make that kind of investment in terms of time and effort, it's no small feat, and we have to coordinate that at multiple levels with the Skinwalker team, with the History Channel production team, et cetera, et cetera. But for sure, what we found is that the evidence that supported the idea of going out there and carrying the investigation that direction was, there was a preponderance of evidence that made us obviously decide to take that trip. And it may have been sky watching for you, but for us, it was boat rides and hikes in the woods and, family barbecues, man. It was a pretty fantastic week.
I got to say, History Channel really does feed their people. I was very impressed by that. And our listeners know that
you burn a lot of calories being outside in the cold all day, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, it was so exciting. Just sitting out there, I was shocked. I've been watching TV my whole life, been a part of one documentary crew when I was 15, and, a lot of that goes out just as childhood memories do. It was pretty wild to see 15 to 20 people that are behind the perspective of the camera. Every time that camera turns, people are turning to, it was pretty cool. But
it's a small army. It's a company of it's a unit. It's a production unit. That's what this is. And I think what's cool, just while you mention it, is that we pull back the curtain. There is no curtain between us and the crew, depending on what happens in the moment. And you've seen that throughout the series, and you'll see more of it as all of those people there have eyes and ears and ideas and experiences that are worth opening up to as we do what we're doing. So anyway, continue.
I love it. I think it was episode 4 when the sort of the fourth wall started to break down, if I remember correctly. And I've been getting blown up by members of our Patreon saying, "Oh my gosh, the show is meta," and like they're acknowledging the camera crew, and things started to happen. And I think that's a really interesting angle that you guys are not afraid to cross that barrier. But I wanted to ask you guys, what was it like when you showed up and you started seeing all these orbs? And then started seeing the data that said unknown. What was that feeling inside?
And I think you nailed it right there, Ryan. Like, the data was not clear. And that's what's so interesting about the whole thing. What data we had that was clear was the data that we captured about your dad's relationship with the phenomenon, right? When we were able to actually measure neural path links and energy and actual the parts of his brain that were being energized throughout his experience, that was like nothing that anyone has ever seen before. And that was something that we were able to measure, monitor, and take back conclusively to our team at Skinwalker Ranch. What Paul and I were experiencing on the ground in the sky was, just like you said, completely unknown. We couldn't verify what we were seeing against air traffic controller records. We couldn't verify them against any kind of satellite records. We did not have the information that we needed to rule out anything in the sky as something that was known, which left us with this giant question, like, what are we seeing? What is happening in the skies above North Carolina that also seems to have this very measurable relationship with your dad?
I got to say, guys, I've been in this game for 16 years. I mean, these experiences started back in 2007. I was a 13-year-old kid. And as the years have gone on, I mean, here I am. I'll be 30. And actually, after this episode airs, it's the week of my birthday. And my point is, the experience that I had with you guys and your crew and David, the wonderful showrunner or director or whatever the term is, it was one of the very best experiences of my life. It was ultra professional. The work you guys did was so wonderful, and we felt so comforted. And I got to say, I mean, it was a very life-changing experience, as I'm sure it may have been for you guys. It certainly was for the Bledsoe family, and I just enjoyed every second of it. It was wonderful. I wanted to ask you guys, I had a couple questions written down. I know I said it's not a question and answer show, but
Yeah. Well, before
you're allowed to ask questions.
Yeah, and before you get
We're
to the
here
question,
for that.
you hit on something that I want to make sure that I acknowledge, right? And that is the Bledsoe family. Because, Paul, I don't know about you, but I really feel like from the moment that we met Chris, we became part of the Bledsoe family.
absolutely.
Very welcoming people, very open-hearted and generous, and you get that. That's an impression that whole family makes in the first moment. So that's there's no better foot to start off than that. No matter what you're there to do, no matter what story you're interested in trying to tell or understand.
It was a very emotional experience for us, and I know it was for some of you guys there, or all of you. I wasn't there every night, unfortunately. I was only there a couple nights, but I've heard all about it, and now it's aired. So, but yeah, I mean, we just can't thank you guys enough. And I speak for my father and the rest of the family when I say you guys definitely became part of the family, no doubt. I was wondering, before you were leading up to the property, now all the episodes, since we're recording this, not all the episodes have aired yet, so I haven't seen the whole show. I certainly will. But did you guys have any sort of sightings or any sort of like wow paranormal experiences leading up to coming to our property?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think for Paul and I both, wow is really hard for us to hit. Because usually the first thing, when we see something strange, the first impression that goes through both of our brains is what? Mm-hmm. What is happening? What can we measure? What can we see? What camera is on right now so that we can point it in that direction?
Right. First thing I was going to, when you said what, I was like, yes, what piece of equipment do we need to figure out, how to deploy immediately to respond to this or capture it or run another experiment or whatever. And then who's pointing the camera in the right direction? And often that'll start a conversation, who, you guys got that? You got that?
Yeah,
that happens. You see that happen a lot.
But some of the strange things that we saw before we ever landed in North Carolina. I mean, we saw just incredible data in ranches out west. We saw radiation readings that were off the chart. We were able to replicate some of the same radio frequencies that we were seeing in Skinwalker Ranch. The success of the investigation was, really starting to set itself into motion. Probably the one trip before we went to North Carolina. And we knew we were taking a risk when we went out to see the Bledsoe family, because we had to Paul's point, the world is very accustomed to people researching strange phenomenon in strange places. But this idea of running experiments and measuring phenomenon that seems to be in some kind of relationship with an individual is something completely new. And when you investigate something like that purely in terms of scientific discovery, you don't really worry about outcomes. But when you add on to that the fact that it's being funded and invested in large part by a group that's trying to capture it on film, there's a new level of risk that's introduced, right? Not just in terms of will we see anything, but in terms of, logistical challenges and weather challenges and travel challenges and everything else. So we had certainly seen some strange stuff before we came out there, but we saw nothing that ever seemed to relate to a person. It was always tied to a place. So it was just kind of jaw-dropping to see your dad's personal relationship with the phenomenon and to hear firsthand accounts from your family about how each of you have some sort of relationship with the phenomenon.
Yes. I'm so excited to see the episode. I'm not going to lie. Dad and I are going to watch it. We're going to watch it live. We're going to have a little mini watch party, and I just can't wait to see. But I wanted to ask, considering I haven't seen the episode yet, and our listeners know this, we always record in advance. Do you believe we've made a genuine scientific discovery here?
Paul, I'll jump in first here, and I'll say that I certainly feel like we've collected evidence that no one has collected before. And that moves the dial, right? That's how all science starts, is with some sort of recordable information.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've learned something really remarkable about the human brain, about a particular human brain, about how, your father responds and sort of, as Andrew was saying, either reflects or in some other way is connected with this phenomenon, right? But this is the beginning, right? We don't have all the evidence about what exactly is happening here. But that's how investigations work. They don't necessarily wrap up in one episode like they do on Law and Order.
I like what you just said there, Paul.
Right.
You said this is the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is a journey, right? And we don't know where we're gonna, where it's gonna lead us. So,
and let's be honest too. I mean, a beginning is a huge accomplishment.
The fact that we got any data at all, right?
Yeah. I mean, a beginning. There are so many hypotheses that never get funded. There are so many experiments that never get launched. There are so many claims that can never be substantiated. And
so many TV shows that never get made. The world is.
Yeah, and I mean, Ryan, especially folks who are familiar with your family and your family story, it's having a demonstrable bit of evidence that substantiates what your family has experienced is a powerful starting place. When so many people have doubted your dad, your brother, when so many people have stood in the way of what you've been trying to share, it's really, I think it's inspiring that your resilience and your family's tenacity has given us the opportunity to really create some meaningful evidence that allows an investigation to truly start.
Wow. I really appreciate that. I don't want to make this me focused. It's, I'm excited to have you guys here today and talk all about this, but to answer, to what you were saying, it has been incredibly difficult. As I'm sure you've probably noticed, speaking to so many other people at these locations, I'm sure maybe in passing or I mean, I don't know the conversations you've had, but I'm sure they've probably mentioned to you the ridicule that follows, reporting these experiences. And I don't want to, disparage any other networks, but, there was a previous production about us that didn't necessarily shine us in such a good light. And I believe that the work that you guys have done on our property with our family and how you've encouraged us and were so kind to us. I mean, I believe you guys might not realize this, but you facilitated a genuine space for us to heal and move forward as a family. Just treating us like we're, valuable, that we're not subhuman, crazy people talking about experiences. And then the data you got just takes it to the next level, and it's a very kind thing that you guys did. And you probably don't even realize how much you've impacted us as a family. I can tell you right now.
I mean, those are really heartwarming words for sure, Ryan.
Ryan, I want to say that no matter what the data is or isn't, just hearing you say that, the fact that we, strangers arrived and were somehow involved in an experience of healing like that for your family, I don't care what we find. I'm just happy to hear that, and deeply appreciative that you shared it with us. So thank you.
Thank you as well.
I will say that it's not just Paul and I's opinion. It's not just us giving you what we experienced and what we picked up and what we were able to collect when we were on site with you. When we took this evidence back to Skinwalker Ranch, when we presented this to Dr. Taylor and to Eric Bard, they had a genuine reaction themselves, right? Like that, what they saw through the lens of the data that we collected made a huge impact on them. And you'll see it when you see the episode.
Right.
And it's really nothing short of pretty spectacular. Some of the things that started to come out and come to the forefront of their investigation on Skinwalker Ranch when we were able to present them with the information that we collected right there in multiple locations around North Carolina, just by being in proximity of your dad.
I believe that from what I was being told by my dad, who was speaking with David, I believe the whole quantum entanglement bit in post was removed from the episode. But gosh, I mean, I got to say, that was some pretty mind-blowing stuff, right? Like, Paul, I believe you were in Charlotte.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that, but that's okay.
We're not supposed to talk about that?
Kidding.
Oh, I was like, whoa, you're on the show, not me. But yeah, I mean,
I can't speak to the edits necessarily ahead of it's not like they're calling us up and saying, hey guys, here's what we're doing. We are involved at various stages of the process, but we also know what we got, right? So we know in the moment where the story is going. Now that a lot of that is just also a question of length. We only have
that was communicated to us was a question of length.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
and I think Paul's point is really really powerful here, and what your point is as well, Ryan. There was so much that happened.
It was 6 days.
It didn't all make it into a nice, succinct 40-minute show, 42-minute show, right? Because our purpose in being there, the whole purpose behind the Skinwalker Ranch investigation is not to create a television show. It's to create a documentary effort and craft it in such a way that a TV audience can also participate in the results. And
Genius.
That's what we were able to do, right? We were able to spend 6 days investigating there on site with you and your family. And we were able to let a experienced film crew document the experience and craft it in a way so that a TV watching audience can participate also. Because how much science happens and no audience gets to be part of it. Whether you're talking about weapons research or whether you're talking about space travel or whether you're talking about, new techniques for growing agricultural crops, there's science happening everywhere that nobody gets to be a part of. But what History Channel has done here is allow a documentary team to come in and partner with investigators like Paul and I, scientists like Dr. Travis Taylor and Eric Bard, and then actually document the activity that's happening that nobody has access to.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's like allowing the audience to be a part of the science. And that surely seems to be the case with how, again, like I had said previously, the fourth wall breaks down and midway through the show, the camera crew's being shown because they're being messed with by some sort of entity or phenomenon. That's really brilliant.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, Paul.
To show the process, right? I mean, there's the expression, you don't want to see how the sausage is made. Well, it's interesting to see how the sausage gets made. And sometimes the sausage is really good and interesting, and sometimes nothing happens. But that's the whole point. Like, we're not out there, turning a key and these things happen. We don't really know what the outcome of a lot of this is ever going to be.
Yeah, so, and our goal is not necessarily an outcome, right? Our goal is not to create.
Exactly. Investigation is not outcome seeking. It's a process, and either something happens or it doesn't, or something in between.
Yeah, it's a great point. Something in between seemed to happen quite often, right? We'd be on location at one place, nothing would happen. We'd travel to a new location, and then something would happen on the way that's related to the first location. And it was a weird 3 months on its own. Aside from the cold, aside from the investigation and the data, aside from everything else, it was just a very kind of enriching and challenging experience for Paul and I. And And speaking to your point about people ridiculing you and your family, I mean, Paul and I still, in our professional worlds, in our social media worlds, we also have to deal with people criticizing us and questioning us and trying to, tear us down because we participated in the investigation. It's just a matter of, small minds and short-sighted people who don't want to let in the space to question things that they've never questioned before.
Right. I have to be honest and candid with you here. In the last week or two, Andy, I've been seeing some clips of you go viral on TikTok that you didn't even post. Are you aware of this with your personal podcast? It's very cool. I wanted to mention Everyday Spy, but the point is, I feel like this investigation, not just this investigation, but the whole show, the whole season, is going to bring a spotlight to all of this, and it's really cool that you guys get to be here, being the face of this. I feel like what you guys have facilitated is an opportunity for a very serious investigation into, we could say, the supernatural or the paranormal or the interdimensional, extraterrestrial, et cetera, et cetera. I have the sense that the unknown. I like that.
Just covers it all.
I like that. I get the sense that you guys really have made history with the show. I mean, my experience with it has been totally incredible, and I feel like the audience has as well. How do you guys feel about that?
I would love to know that Paul and I left, and we're avid fans of history. If I could literally just leave a dot in the volumes of history, that's something significant, right? Because there are so many people who history forgets. Mm-hmm. And going back to what Paul mentioned earlier, like what we've done.
History Channel is going to love how much we're talking about history right now and saying history.
Hey, I'm not employed by them. I'm just grateful.
I know. I'm just raising the glass. They are writing the checks.
Yeah. But we've created the opportunity for sure for people to take investigations more seriously, right?
Absolutely.
And when you think about how much the resourcing and the manpower that goes into a true full-scale investigation, I mean, sometimes it takes just a small task force like Paul and I, a small field team, to be able to justify additional resources in the future. So as far as making history, I'm really happy if we can be the ones that just start the conversation to take it seriously and lay the path for more resources and more talent in the future.
I like that. Have you guys had any experiences following? And I don't necessarily mean on the show. I just mean in your personal lives, because that's one thing about the Bledsoes. I'm not sure if you guys were made aware of this, and it's on the cover of my dad's book. I know you probably can't see it that well on screen, but it says The Spiritual Journey of Missing Time, Clouds of Fire, Healings, or maybe it's on the back. Anyway, it says Hitchhikers. The whole point is people come to our property and things follow them home. Have you guys had any experiences with that yet? Anything follow you home?
So I checked the back seat, and so far, so good.
Back seat, yeah. Little... an orb with his thumb up.
Suitcases and my my duffels and everything. So far, I'm good.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing has been true for me. And it's funny because I've been looking, right? I've been looking and tracking to see if we can, if there's any kind of evidence of hitchhiker activity. And what happens to me personally is that as I find myself looking for it more and more often, the voice that comes into my own head is the voice that your dad has, right? It's your dad's voice saying, the harder you look, the more you try, it changes the phenomenon itself. So it's been a kind of an interesting journey for me, being so kind of
right.
Relationship. So the harder I look, the more I'm essentially undermining the spiritual nature of the relationship. So it's there's a Chris Bledsoe angel on my shoulder.
Mine too.
You must look without looking.
Right. To truly find it. Right. It's a very, very interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to get into the nitty gritty of it. It's all about, from my dad's perspective. I can't speak for the investigation in the show and how everybody feels about it, but the way my dad feels about it is it's about humility, recognizing that these entities have free will and they're choosing to appear when they're ready to. It's about, like, in a sense, having this equal exchange of humility towards them, and that's literally all there is to it. There's a lot of people out there that claim to summon it and do these meditation rituals and all this, and for anybody listening and they're wondering how all this happened, that's his sauce. That's the secret sauce. It's just understanding that they, are joyful free will beings, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I mean, even that point of view is so insanely different from the traditional optic that people use to explain the phenomenon. Right? Beings, free will, gratitude and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you hear these people, or normally you hear witnesses explain their relationship with the phenomenon through a very like an evil or a dark lens. I think malevolent is the word that we often use, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of hostile or scary experience, and that's nothing at all like what your dad shares. That's nothing at all like what any of the Bledsoe family shares when they talk about their relationship with the phenomenon.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite. In our experience, 16 years of dealing with this since 2007, it's been positive. I'm not going to lie to you guys and tell you that sometimes we haven't seen things and been like, what was that? Like you can be scared sometimes of things of the unknown. I equate it to like seeing a bear in the forest. The bear's not evil, but it can be scary. You know what I mean?
Bear's going to bear.
Yeah.
He's going to do his bear thing. And the same
Yeah.
thing with these, especially, from your dad's point of view, the idea that these are entities unto themselves, that's his understanding. And so, of course, the idea of course, he speaks of it in terms of free will and it's again, as Andy points out, his relationship to this is spiritual almost more. But we also saw what was happening in his brain. So there's a specific relationship here that we have yet to understand.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I think is also really worth mentioning, Ryan, is that between our investigation at your property and the release of the episode, your dad has had incredible success sharing his story on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? His book launch. Can you share some more about that? Because I only know a little bit of
it. Look at Andrew throwing in a plug for the book.
I love that. Thank you. That's true. I didn't even realize that the book came out the month after y'all left.
Right.
I didn't even compute that in my brain. So it's UFO of God.
Man, you're supposed to know that. Come on, man. You're a podcast host.
I forgot, it clicked, y'all were there. And then the book came out just weeks after you left, and it's been exciting ever since. So I'm holding the hardcover copy. It just came out a few days ago, since this was recorded. UFO of God came out February 19th, and gosh, I mean, it's taken off. It's really just grown into a life of its own. It's got over 1,000 reviews now, which for not a lot of people write books, respectively, but that's a lot for a self-published author. And I mean, the reception has been so positive. It's been so ultra supportive. People have been so kind, and I'm just so excited to see how that's going to be paired with the show on August 1st.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just, let's be fair, it's not people being kind, right? It's people, those reviews, when you look at those reviews and when you see the success, your dad's book has been a bestseller on Amazon, right? Yeah. It's not 1,000 reviews is not 1,000 sales. It's 1,000 people
it's
coming
a fraction
in.
Of the sales.
Yes, it's 1,000 people taking time out of their day to give you a comment on the book.
Right.
And he's been on a road show too. I mean, he's traveled to different book signings. He traveled to different conventions. Yeah. So, I mean, this as another data point in what we're discussing here. Yes, there's the data that Paul and I collected. There's the investigation itself that airs on August 1st. There's all this empirical evidence that we've collected. But then there's also all of this social evidence that demonstrates how powerful your dad's experience has been. Because those people who are reading the book, buying the book, reviewing the book, people who are meeting him at conventions and shaking his hand and giving him hugs, these are not kind people. These are people who are having hard questions answered for them by your dad's experience, by the Bledsoe family experience, right? Everything in this world of strangeness, this phenomenal world that Paul and I are investigating, it's very personal. It's very human. And it wasn't until we took the investigation to North Carolina that I realized how human the experience really is. It was always something that was, alien, essentially.
Right.
Not human.
Impersonal.
Yes. Impersonal.
Yeah.
But now we find that there's a personal relationship with potentially a human or potentially an extraterrestrial entity.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, it was a little weird growing up with my dad. I mean, I mean, I know you guys take me seriously when I say this, having been there, but I've seen thousands times thousands of things that go bump in the night. I've seen, these orbs. They may appear as orbs on camera, and most of the time when we see them, but a lot of times, figures that are anthropomorphic in their shape and their nature pop out of these orbs. Telling you the honest truth, there, I've seen entities in my bedroom and white light shining entities run across the art. I mean, we've seen some really ludicrous things, guys. And, my hope is that we can capture that on camera someday. Wouldn't that be wild?
I mean, yeah, some of the footage that your dad shared with us just on his cell phone. I mean, just, most of us share pictures of our kids or our pets or places that we've traveled. Your dad has just, reams of data of images and pictures and video from what he's seen on your property. It's really amazing.
Yeah, you guys might like this story. There was one time in my, I was just in my bedroom chilling and hanging out with it was a friend that was my age, and we were home for summer break, out of college. So we're staying up late, not a job. We're both full-time bachelor degree students, So during the summers, we would just stay up late and talk about this stuff. He grew up in a haunted house. He loved it. And there was one time where we were talking about orbs, and something touched me. Something touched my rib cage that there was nothing standing there. And I lifted my shirt and there was a red mark on my rib cage. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And we both looked in the corner and there was an entity standing in the corner. And that's just like one example of the thousands of crazy poltergeist activity we've had in our property. But actually, I was trying to tell you the guys this earlier, but it slipped my mind. But it's almost like ironic that you guys came to our property, because in the intelligence communities that have swarmed our family and poked and prodded us, one thing that they always seem to say in private is we're like Skinwalker Ranch of the East Coast. So, I mean, we've been told that for years. Like Lou Elizondo. I'm sure you guys are familiar with who that is. John Alexander, you guys definitely know who that is. You've met him at this point, and several other members of the intelligence community have told us you guys are like the Skinwalker Ranch of the East Coast. So it's just ironic, isn't it, that the Skinwalker show and the Bledsoe experiences were merged into one awesome investigation.
I mean, I would love to say that it's ironic, except that Paul and I put some very real effort and research into making it happen because of exactly what you were just saying, right? There's a history that's connecting your dad's experience with Skinwalker Ranch. So what was missing was the active investigation. So we just kind of followed the breadcrumbs to advance the story a little bit further. So it's what I find is that it's a natural evolution that smart investigators, that experienced ufologists are tracking something to the Bledsoe family ranch house or the Bledsoe family home, and then we're going to bring an investigation there. And as that continues to evolve, more experimentation, more advanced equipment, longer duration experimentation, multifaceted data collection tools. It kind of writes itself now that we've started the ball rolling.
Yeah, no, totally. So, what do you guys see on the horizon with your investigation? Anything you could share? I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, I don't even know what
this particular investigation or the show in general.
Just in general, yeah. Like, I mean, you guys definitely have a knack for this.
Well, you're just gonna have to stay tuned, right, to watch all the way to the end of the season.
Access denied.
And well, I mean, look, we are television professionals here.
That's true. Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble, so I won't.
No. It's more like you want to find out what happened. Well, tune in next time. So, yeah, I mean that will be revealed, right?
Okay.
As with everything else.
Awesome. Well, that answers my question. I can't wait to see that. I guess that would be the 9th episode. So how did you guys get?
What I'll do, Ryan, is I'll build on top of what Paul said. For sure, continue watching the season, because I mean the things that get revealed, the things that Paul and I experienced firsthand, that the documentary film crew was able to capture and craft into something relatable for the audience, they really are spectacular findings. But a step beyond that, the feedback from the investigators at Skinwalker Ranch to the effort that Paul and I put into this has been beyond any expectation that we had.
Wonderful.
Right? Hearing Travis and hearing Eric get as excited as they are, hearing Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, be as excited as he is at an investigation level, the success is beyond what anybody anticipated. Layering on
it is beyond.
Beyond.
Quite beyond.
It is beyond. So then layering on top of that, the question of, do the investigations continue? Without a doubt, the investigations continue, because there's a whole team at Skinwalker Ranch. There's a whole funding mechanism for the research itself. Whether or not the documentary part of that also continues, I feel like the feedback that we're getting is largely trending towards yes. But what does that look like? What does that look like? What's the experimentation? Do the investigators advance in a different direction? Do we go overseas? Do we go to new locations or the same locations? That's something that we have yet to put together on our side.
We can say, Andrew, and Ryan, to your question, I think the audience response has been terrific, and history will be the first to tell you that. And again, like Andrew said, the Skinwalker team is really excited. Our crew, we had a great run. It was a grind. It was hard, but we've gotten nothing but thumbs up all around. You seem to like it.
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean, I was pretty anxious to watch the first episode. I mean, from everybody listening, they're like, "Wow, it's been awesome from the start." But keep in mind, like,
you never know. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, we liked it.
Well, it's a lot of pressure.
Be received.
It's a lot of pressure being the one with the cameras on your family, So I got to say, from January to whenever it aired, I guess it was in June, there was a lot of questioning around our house, like, how's it going to be? How's it going to be received? Are they going to do us right? Are they going to portray us positively? And the moment I watched the first episode, I'm texting my family, like, guys, they got us. This is awesome. Professional. It's such a positive, spin, and not a spin really. It's just showing the data, but you know what I mean. I mean, we've been negatively spinned in the past, and from the moment I watched that first episode onward, I was just like, this is awesome. I can't wait. Wonderful.
Yeah, so. and that's what all the credit there has to go to David, the showrunner that you're mentioning, right, Ryan? Because from the beginning, his vision, the vision of the executive producers. On the media and television side of all this was always to stick to the truth of the documentary experience. There's no negative spin. There's no positive spin. There's no crafting. There's no staging. There's no cueing. There's just collect what we can collect. And
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, and then present it so the audience can make their own conclusions in parallel with the scientific data that we are able to collect. So, I mean, I'm really excited that you're seeing that already in the first few episodes. It's something that makes me very proud to have been on this show. No matter how many naysayers are out there, the truth is we're not spinning or crafting or molding anything. We're just documenting a live investigation with two reputable investigators like Paul and I.
Yeah, and I can totally vouch for that. I've seen the mechanics of this thing for just a few nights, and I got to say, like, it was just showing up, earnest, amazing equipment. I know it's not about that, but man, my mind was blown. I guess we can talk about
part of it. You can say that.
Yeah, I mean the equipment.
Guys in their gear. It's the adventure of two guys in their gear.
Some incredible futuristic camera rig technology with AI databases and all this. I mean, it was some pretty mind-blowing stuff, and
two pretty decent looking, chatty dudes running around.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what could go wrong?
That's right. You guys have definitely inspired Dad and I to possibly have our own venture in the future, maybe like going out west and just bringing a couple cameras and an RV and seeing what we can find. But you guys definitely. Road. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Take it on the road.
Yes, absolutely. Just like you guys did. Take it on the road and see what we can get.
I mean, there's a long history of that in the United States, right? There's a long American tradition of, wagons and wagon trails and going out and investigating on your own and building your own new life. Like that frontier approach has been something that has gone well in technology and investment and in everything. So the discovery is out there. It goes to the people who take the risk.
Mm-hmm. So, Andy, I'm sure this was nothing new for you, given that you had a former career in the CIA. But, Paul, I wanted to ask you, what was it like being dropped into a world of people investigating this once previously highly classified subject with these intelligence officers? I mean, surely that had to be a cool new experience, right?
Well, I mean, I've been certainly in dropped into situations where I'm, certainly doing something completely new, and a couple times with U.S. intelligence officers. But but never, every story is different, right? And so, of course, this one has, a really unique premise. Obviously, your family, which is unique. Andy and I as a new team. So this whole thing has just been an evolving adventure. But every part of every story tends to be something new, right? You never cross the same river twice.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess
never tell the same story twice.
There you go. Yeah, I knew what you meant, but I guess being an award-winning journalist probably has put you in some pretty hair-raising situations and some pretty larger-than-life situations. So I didn't think about that, but
no, I wasn't. I was just saying, the world. This is the privilege of doing this kind of work is. What could be better than having your job be to go around and talk to people about interesting things that have happened to them and that they want the world to know about, right? And the corollary in journalism is obviously lots of times you're covering disasters and tragedy, but discovery and possibility and wonder and excitement, which is mostly what this show is about, is what a great gig. How cool.
Right. Yeah, super cool. Do you guys feel like after doing the show and the season is complete, I know it at this point it hasn't all aired, but it's complete. Do you guys feel like this has caused you to reflect a little bit more on the mechanics of life or the universe? Has it had that kind of mind-altering effect on you guys at all? I'm just curious if it's changed your perspective seeing some of these things.
Yeah, without a doubt, it certainly has shifted the way I think about problems, the way I think about questions, the way I think about our place in the universe. I mean, there is so much interesting information out there. And for me, my career has always been very focused. I share Paul's opinion that there's something awesome about being the person that gets to wake up every day and ask themselves, who gets to do this?
Mm-hmm.
We're lucky for that.
But we get to ask that question almost every day. Who gets to do this? Who on earth gets to? Most people are in a car on a commute to a job that they don't like, to do work for 8 hours a day that's not fulfilling for whatever else, right? Paul and I get to wake up every day to the unknown. We get to go talk. We get to go chase the most interesting things, learn the most fascinating things, and then come back and just process and reflect on those, share them with our family and our friends and our kids. It's an amazing, amazing adventure.
But sit around a campfire.
Yeah.
Cold.
Wear Carhartt jackets.
Yeah, exactly.
But wear a lot of Carhartt jackets.
Yeah.
We have a series of jackets, as I've said to Andy before.
And for me,
specific jackets.
For me, my niche of interesting for so long has been focused on the very, very human experience, right? Geopolitics, intelligence, military strategy. I've always been very terrestrial focused. And then the invitation to come out and be part of this investigation and be part of this team with Paul, it turned my eyes towards the sky. And my eyes aren't normally they don't normally go that direction.
You're in the Air Force.
Yeah, looking down from the sky.
I know, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah.
And as a missile commander as well.
So it was really, really
Andy's resume is so cool.
It really is.
Yeah. I appreciate it, guys. But it was such a huge paradigm shift for me to start asking and reflecting on these larger questions. That has been my experience, but I know Paul's is different because he came from a very different background and he has a long history of investigating, stories that have always been kind of on the cutting edge, on the precipice of what people are looking at and researching. So Paul, I don't know about what your experience has been since having the experiences we've had.
Well, first I want to say sorry. I've got a little bit of a summer cough.
Me too. Don't worry. I'm just hiding it well.
Yeah, you're more of a professional than I am apparently. No, look. I mean, again, this all of this is part of a grand journey that we're very lucky to be fortunate to be able to partake in and shape and help communicate to other people. But so I'm always open to the next new experience. And of course, I learned a lot on this show about human perception, about what people believe and don't believe, and what they've seen or not seen. and what Andy and I have seen and experienced together. So what happens in Arizona stays in Arizona. Anyway, no, it's been, and North Carolina as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, end of thought.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
it's 90 degrees in New York City. I don't know about you guys right now, but we're in the middle of the summer now. Talking about working in the cold, but I'm glad we're not shooting in the summer, Andy. At least not right now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm near the beach in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's so humid you can hardly breathe when you walk outside.
Right.
Totally get it. But hey, I mean, benefit of having a pool and living at the beach, right?
So Ryan, what has been the feedback? Has the phenomenon changed at all for your family since we were on site? Has your dad said anything? Your brother said anything? Your sisters? Anything?
That's a good question.
I'm glad you asked. I didn't want to go too much into that unless you guys, certainly let's go that route.
Yeah.
Yes, just to be plain and direct with my answer, the activity after that has been more intense than ever. And I believe that like you guys coming and doing this documentary effort really just catapulted the energy and the intensity of the experiences around our property. I mean, there was one night my co-host couldn't be here tonight. He had something going on, but my co-host Nick, he's my best friend. His whole family came over. We had 15 to 20 people in our yard, and I'm telling you, we weren't just seeing orbs flash and do crazy things in the sky like you guys saw. We were seeing them, some of them so close they were 2 to 3 feet away. You could just reach out and touch them and flash. And my sister has seen entities stand in the yard, like 3 glowing white luminous entities, exactly like my dad initially described in his original experience. And
this is happening now.
Oh, yeah, it's never stopped. It's never stopped. Actually, you know what? You guys might like to hear this. What is today's? Today's Wednesday,
July 12th. Yeah.
The 12th. Okay, so about 2 to 3 nights ago, I was on the phone with my dad, and he was outside sky watching, and he calls me every now and then while he's sky watching because he thinks our connection, just the more of us that are gathered, the more the activity is, and you guys definitely saw that. Well, he calls me. He says, "Hey, it's a really cloudy night. I'm just sky watching. I haven't seen anything." And I was like, "Oh, cool, Dad. Well, I've just been thinking a lot about it, and I think that the History Channel show is going to be a huge smash hit. It's going to be a success. I think they're going to be very kind and not do a negative spin on us because we've been very traumatized in the past with how we've been portrayed." And as I was saying this, and I can send you guys the video. It's posted on our Instagrams. Like we've already posted this and everything. As I'm saying,
you were recording this conversation.
Well, my dad was recording with his Psionics camera while talking to me on the phone. So his Psionics picked up our conversation. So you can hear me, what I'm saying. And as I said, the History Channel show is going to be a smash hit, and it's going to spread everywhere, and people everywhere are going to know about it. We had a crazy sighting where these 2 orbs brightly lit up and crossed over each other. And then a third one crossed over them, and they made this formation in the sky like a triangle. And Dad and I are completely convinced this is how they communicate with us. I mean, you guys have seen this. Yeah. It's like when we're saying something, looking for a sign or looking for an answer or a message, and they flash when we're looking for that, we take that to mean they're confirming, yes, you're in the right direction, or this is true. And anybody out there listening to this might think that's crazy or whatever, but here we are sitting with the History Channel hosts, and the only reason Dad took the offer in the first place to do the investigation is because he went outside and asked for a sign and got a flash. The only reason he wrote his book, he got a flash. Everything that we've done, we're getting these flashes, and we take it as, all right, pedal to the metal. And I think the History Channel show is going to go down in the history books. I think history made history. I kept saying that night.
Yeah. The thing that I really want to comment on with this is your dad's absolute, unwavering confidence in his relationship with the phenomenon. It really is something to behold, to watch him, like you were saying earlier, with such humility, with such conviction.
Respect.
Yes. To just continually adhere and follow the relationship he has with the phenomenon.
Yeah.
To write a book, to say yes to a show, to go outside, to go inside, to travel, to meet certain people. It's just incredible, especially in a world where so few people can be convinced of anything.
Yeah.
To see your dad so confident in his relationship that even when he has his own doubts, when he has his own fears, his own concerns, he still looks to the phenomenon as a guardian angel, a guiding light.
Yeah. I really appreciate the kind words, guys. And I want to be respectful of your time. So I think we could be at a good wrapping point here. But before we go, I wanted to say, is there anything that the two of you, I like to ask our guests this question. So I'm going to go around and ask you both. If everybody in the world at this moment was listening and you just had the audience of the whole planet, was there something that you feel was a message that you would love to leave? You know, like if you had one chance to speak to the whole world, what would you say? What would you communicate?
Oh, wow. All right. I need a moment.
I'll give you mine would be positive, think positive, and just be good to other people. Shine a light, keep a clean conscience. Just something like that,
So my message is one that I go to often, Ryan, on interviews like this and others. I'm a dad, I'm a father. And one thing that all of us have in common is that we all came from parents, right? Mm-hmm. We all came from somewhere. And for me, as a father especially, my message to the world is always love your children, right? Love your children, because the life that you have with them, the experience you have with them is a one-way trip. You will never go back in time with your children. Yeah. You will only go forward in time. You can never undo mistakes from the past. You can never rewrite what you've done in the past, what your experience has been with them. So every day that you don't love them is one day that they don't feel loved. So make them feel loved every day and turn them into the parent of the future that will make their children feel loved every day. That's just a personal thing for me, man.
It's really deep.
I think we all are children, right? That's also a takeaway from that. We're all children, one way or another. We all came from somewhere. We don't all have children necessarily, but I love the spirit of your message, Andy. As you know, I'm a dad too, you have to raise your children as you want the world to be, right, as best you can. Mm-hmm. So that same generosity of spirit should extend itself, hopefully, to all things, right? We don't live in that world, but that world is achievable because we make the world. We make the world what it is in the here and now. That's my message. Cut.
I love it.
Wrap.
Love it. Always looking for those positive messages. You guys delivered beautifully. Is there anything that each of you, I know you have your own social media spaces and things like that. Whatever you need to plug, I would love to provide a space for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ryan. If anybody wants to find more about me or more about the work that I do, you can find me at everydayspy.com. You can find me on all social media platforms at everydayspy. And if you really want a challenge, you can just Google my full name, Andrew Bustamante. Right? It's much easier to just go with at Everyday Spy. But if anybody wants to hear more about me and what I'm working on, that's where to find me.
Okay. Paul, anything you'd like to?
Sure. I can point. I mean, obviously, I'm delighted that people are watching this show, our current project. I'm very proud of a project I did quite recently in a totally different vein. It's an investigative news podcast about the disaster in Surfside, Florida, that many of us will recall when the condominium on the beach collapsed spontaneously overnight. Seemed spontaneously, killing 98 people. It's one of the worst structural disasters in world history and certainly in U.S. history.
Scary.
That was a real story reported out by the Miami Herald. They won the Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting, and I helped and hosted the accompanying podcast.
Wow, that's awesome. Not the disaster part, but your involvement in the story, and that's super cool. I got to say, I know we're wrapping up here, but I've been watching this Superman and Lois show, and Lois Lane. You just remind me of that. Just having this journalistic intuition, it's so cool. I love it.
It's my girlish intuition.
Hey,
I'm in touch with that.
There's something mystical to that, honestly. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I have so much love for you guys and what you've done, and for the History Channel, and for David, the showrunner. And I can't name every crew member because it would take all night, but everybody that was involved with this project, from me and the Bledsoe family to you guys, we love you. Thank you. Please don't be a stranger. And we do have a tradition on the show. It's so lame. It's so cheesy, but it's like our little exit ritual. We all say bye, guys, at the same time. So on the count of 3, you ready?
think we can
All
do
right.
this.
1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, check out our other videos.
And before you go, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week. Peace.